If you're like me, you're tired of fighting for outlets in the bathroom. When many homes were built, they included only 2 outlets on the bathroom circuit, and that's just not enough by today's standards. Today we'll be installing this Lebanon light switch outlet combo, and we'll also be replacing the existing GFCI outlet with this GFCI outlet that includes some USB charging ports, okay? Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how easy this is. Alright, just a quick reminder, we are working with electricity today, and if you're not comfortable working with electrical, you might consider hiring a licensed professional. As mentioned in the intro, we're replacing a light switch with this light switch outlet combo, which gives us 1 additional outlet. And we're replacing the GFC outlets with this GFC outlet that has 2 USB charging ports. I have a 20 amp circuit for my bathroom, so adding 1 additional outlet and 2 USB charging ports, which draw a minimal amount of amperage, isn't going to be a problem. With that said, if you're already tripping breakers in your bathroom, you may want to consider how much load you have on the existing circuit before you add any additional outlets, okay? Okay, before I go hit the breaker in the panel, I'm gonna hit this test button on my existing GFCI outlet. And you may have noticed that this red LED is now illuminated. And this is just going to be a quick, easy way to verify that we have actually shut power off to this outlet in switch. Okay, let's go hit the breaker real quick. All right, now that I've verified the power is off, I'm just going to start by removing this faceplate here. And you can use standard screwdrivers, or you could use something like this Milwaukee here. All right, next I'm going to switch to a Phillips, and I'm going to start removing the outlets themselves, these 4 Phillips screws here. But do not start removing any wires from the outlets, because we're going to want to identify which wires are which. Okay, so we'll carefully remove the outlets here, and you can see mine are painted in, but also you're gonna feel the wire essentially. All right, so on my existing GFCI, I've identified that the top lines, the white and the black on the top, are the line. Okay, so that would mean that the ones both beneath them are the load. And on the new outlet, we're looking for the same thing. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. It says line right there by my finger. Down here it says load, okay? So it's important to know where the power is coming from and then where it's going when it goes through the GFCI, okay? Okay, so I've set these aside as my line. Just gonna go ahead and get them twisted up here with some wire nuts. And if you've never worked with wire nuts, it's just like screwing a bottle cap on, right? Or righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, that old thing. All right, so now we've got to get our load wired up, as well as our ground. And then we'll talk about the switch next, because we may need to run a white wire to the new switch, okay? Another important detail when putting your wire nuts on, first of all, you want to make sure that they're tight enough that they're not going to just pull off, okay? Because we are going to have to place this all back into the box, okay? And the other important detail is that when you look at the connection, you don't want any copper here, okay? So all the copper needs to be up inside the wire nut, all right? And our green is ground, and it goes to the bare wire. And it's helpful to push in as you're rotating the wire nut, okay? So right now, this outlet is wired up, okay? We could actually test it. Okay, so I'll flip the breaker on, and I'm gonna carefully bring the outlet up here. We have a green indicator here, which is good, right? Let's turn the light on, because we haven't messed with the switch yet at all, okay? I don't know if you can see that, but we have light. Okay, so I've shut the breaker off again. I just want to quickly talk about the switch here. Again, you want to kind of take note of which wires are which, just because it makes life a lot easier, okay? Now, one thing we know is that we have a black wire coming out here, which is the load. Remember, we had feed and load on the GFCI. And the load, okay, is is the power out to outlets, lights, and so forth. Because the idea of the GFCI is it's a ground fault interrupt, okay? If there's a ground fault, it's gonna disable power to everything after the outlet. So the power comes into this GFCI, and then it feeds out to your outlets, your lights, and so forth. So we know on load, we have this, okay? And then we have another wire, not here, which is interesting. What I'm probably gonna do is consolidate these, but I was just getting our outlet wired up so that I didn't lose track of the wires and such. So we know that this is basically the power into the switch, okay? And then on the other side of it, this one goes to the light, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this switch, and it's interesting the way they did this. They just stripped off a piece of wire. It's a piece of bare wire, and they wrapped it around the screw, which is perfectly fine. We'll have to see if that works with our new outlet though, okay? Let me go ahead and get this removed. Okay, so on this outlet here, and you probably can't see it all that well, but there's one that's marked as common, okay? And that's what we're going to use here for the load line out of the GFCI. And I've confirmed with my continuity tester, with my multimeter, that this provides power to not only the switch, but also to the outlet. And of course, one thing I wanted to verify is that the switch wasn't going to shut the outlet off, and it does not appear to do so. So we're going to come in with power here, and then here on the gold terminal, we're going to go out to the light, okay? Now, incidentally, we're going to combine, as I mentioned, I removed this short piece of wire. It's unnecessary, it just takes up room. Okay, and all I'm doing here is I'm just taking these cheap little cutters. You can use needle nose or whatever you like, whatever you have handy really. And I'm just making a little loop to make it easier to get in around the screw. And when you do that, you want to make sure that it's obviously not sticking out beyond the little protrusions that keep the wire in there. So this one I'll use my own manual screwdriver. Okay, the last thing I need to do here to get the outlet working is we need to provide a neutral to it. You may recall that our original switch only had a black in, black out, and a ground. So we have this little piece of wire that I removed from the previous setup, and I'm just going to go ahead and get it onto this terminal here, silver, and I'm going to just bring it into the load side of the GFCI outlet, okay? Okay, at this point, I'm actually ready to test it, and I'm going to test it just like this because I feel comfortable doing so. If you don't feel comfortable testing it like this, then certainly you could put it into the box and test it that way. But in all honesty, now is a good time to test it because you know, it's just easier to fix things without having to place it all in the box, find out you've got some issue, and then pull it all back out. It could very well be too that when we put the setup back in the box, you know, that's why you want to make sure these are all tight. You know, something comes loose. So let's go ahead and test it out now to make sure it's working before we put it back in. All right. We have light. I'm not sure if that's being picked up on the camera or not. We still have a green LED here, so that's good. Let's go ahead and plug something in. I have a wet dry vac here. It's going to be a little noisy, but I'll plug the wet dry vac in here just to see if it kicks on. All right, I'll test out the USB-C port here. This is USB-A, this is USB-C. Incidentally, my son's electric razor is USB, so there we go. My phone is charging. So, all right, I'm gonna go shut the breaker off, and then we'll put this all back into place, and then we'll test it out, and we're done. So for this part, just take your time, and again, you wanna verify that, that none of the wire nuts are coming loose or exposing any wire, except for the ground. The ground is okay, it's bare anyways, right? Okay, I have the outlets wound all the way in. I'm just going to put the plate on here to see how it fits. Now, this bathroom was recently painted, so I have the paint. I'm going to touch up here. It pulled off a little bit because I probably put the plate on before it was fully dry the last time when I painted it. All right, here's the moment of truth. I've got the bathroom fan on along with the vanity light and the fan light. I'm also charging my son's razor here. Let's just run a test here real quick to make sure that it works, the GFCI functionality. I don't know if you heard, but the fan went out, the lights went out, and this is no longer charging. Then we'll reset it. There we go. Hopefully you found this video helpful. It's a fairly easy job. Just take your time and pay attention to which wires go where. And thanks for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day.